The world did not return all at once. It came in fragments, in shards of sensation that pierced the profound and endless dark. First, it was the smell. Antiseptic, sharp and sterile. A scent that spoke of cleanliness and concealed decay. It was a smell that existed in the void before I had a body to feel it. Then a sound. A distant, rhythmic beep. 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 An electronic heartbeat that was both alien and intimately familiar. A metronome counting out seconds I couldn't feel, minutes I didn't experience, days that were blank pages in the book of my life. A year, 365 days, 8,760 hours, gone, erased. The last memory was a fossil, preserved in the amber of a single catastrophic moment, the blinding glare of oncoming headlights, the high-pitched metallic screech of tires fighting against asphalt, and then the symphony of shattering glass, 1,000 crystal raindrops exploding inward. After that, silence. A long, deep, velvet silence. Now I was here. Wherever here was, my eyelids were slabs of granite, but I fought them, a Herculean effort that used every ounce of my will. The light was blinding, a sterile white that seared my retinas. Shapes swam in the glare, blurred and indistinct. A ceiling, tiled, a curtain, pale green. The steady, insistent beeping was louder now, and I understood, with a dawning, horrifying clarity, that it was coming from me. It was the sound of my own tenuous hold on this world. I tried to move my hand, to lift it, to see this instrument of my own vitality, but my body was not my own. It was a thing of lead and stone, unresponsive, a prison of flesh and bone. A low, guttural sound escaped my lips, a stranger's voice from my own throat. Then a shadow fell over me, blocking the searing light. A face swam into focus, soft, concerned, framed by a halo of frizzy brown hair escaping a practical ponytail. Blue eyes, the color of a calm sea, looked down at me. They were tired, those eyes, with faint lavender smudges beneath them, but they were kind. "Mr. Thorne," a voice said. It was soft, melodic, a lifeline thrown into the choppy sea of my confusion. "Alexander, can you hear me?" I tried to form a word, any word. "Yes." "Help!" "Where?" But my tongue was a foreign object in my mouth, thick and useless. All that emerged was a dry, rasping sigh. A cool hand touched my forehead, and the sensation was so profoundly human, so real, that I thought I might weep. But my body had forgotten how to do even that. "It's all right," the voice soothed. "You're in the hospital. You've been in an accident. My name is Sarah. I'm your nurse. You're safe now." Sarah. The name anchored itself in my swirling mind. Sarah. Over the next few days, as consciousness became less of a fleeting visitor and more of a permanent, painful resident, Sarah was my constant. She was the one who explained, in that calm, steady voice, that I had been in a coma, a medically induced coma to allow my brain to heal from the traumatic injury. A year. I had been asleep for a year. The Alexander Thorne, who had crashed his car, was a titan of industry, a man who commanded boardrooms, who closed billion-dollar deals before lunch, whose time was measured in billable minutes, and whose life was a whirlwind of private jets, charity galas, and the relentless pursuit of more. That man was gone. In his place was this husk, a man who had to be taught how to swallow, how to sit up, how to command his own limbs. The fortune, the penthouse, the art collection, none of it mattered in this room. Here, my only currency was the number of steps I could take between the parallel bars in the physical therapy room. Sarah was my guide through this new, humiliating existence. She was patience personified. She would read to me, not from children's books, but from the Financial Times she brought from the waiting room. "You need to know what's happening in your world, Mr. Thorne," she'd say, her voice giving weight to the dry reports of market fluctuations and corporate mergers. She would talk to me about the world outside, the change of seasons I had missed, a new president elected, a viral internet sensation I had never heard of. She was my tether, the sole connection between the man I was and the ghost I had become. Weeks bled into one another. The fog in my mind began to lift slowly, like a stubborn San Francisco morning mist. I graduated from a liquid diet to soft foods. I could hold a conversation, though my voice was still a rough imitation of its former self. I could, with immense effort and her unwavering support, shuffle from the bed to the chair and back. It was during one of these shuffling journeys, my arm draped over her shoulders, her body a sturdy pillar supporting my wasted frame, that I noticed it. As she helped me lower myself into the plush armchair by the window, her blue scrubs tightened across her midsection, and I saw the subtle yet undeniable curve, a gentle, graceful swell that was entirely, definitively new. My mind, still sluggish, tried to categorize it. The hospital food, perhaps? A laughable thought, instantly dismissed. This was not the softness of indulgence. This was the distinct, beautiful arc of pregnancy. I looked away, a strange, old-fashioned sense of propriety surfacing from a past life. It was none of my business. Sarah had a life outside this room, a husband, a boyfriend, a story I knew nothing about. The thought sent an unexpected and entirely unwelcome pang of something that felt suspiciously like jealousy through me. I, Alexander Thorne, who had dated supermodels and heiresses, was jealous of a phantom man in a nurse's life. But the seed was planted. After that, I found my eyes drawn to her. I saw the way she would sometimes pause, her hand resting lightly on the small of her back, a universal gesture of maternal fatigue. I saw the extra care she took when bending to adjust my pillows. I noticed that her scrubs were now a slightly more forgiving, stretchy material. And I saw the looks, the way the other nurses would smile at her, a secret, knowing smile. The way Dr. Evans would ask, "And how are you feeling, Sarah?" Everything progressing well with a paternal warmth. A timeline began to form in my mind, a cold, calculating spreadsheet of dates and events, a skill honed over a lifetime in business. My accident was a fixed point. A year ago. Sarah had been one of my primary nurses from the beginning, assigned to my long-term, high-maintenance case. I'd been unconscious, utterly vulnerable for the first several months of her pregnancy. The thought was absurd, grotesque, and yet it clung to me, a shadow I couldn't shake. One afternoon, she was helping me with my exercises, guiding my trembling hand to stack a set of children's blocks. A task designed to rebuild my neural pathways, and one I found deeply demeaning. "You're getting stronger, Alexander," she said, her voice full of genuine encouragement. I looked at her, really looked at her. The fatigue was more pronounced now, but there was a new light in her eyes, a profound, deep-seated joy that seemed to radiate from within. It was a light that had not been there when I first woke up. "Sarah," I said, my voice raspy but clear, "how far along are you?" The question hung in the air between us, simple and devastating. Her smile didn't vanish, but it softened, transforming into something more complex, more vulnerable. Her hand instinctively went to her stomach, a protective, unconscious cradle. She didn't look away. Her sea-blue eyes held mine, and in their depths I saw a storm of emotions, fear, hope, anxiety, and that unshakable joy. 28 weeks, she said softly, her voice barely a whisper. The number echoed in the silent room. 28 weeks, 7 months. I did the math instantly, the numbers clicking into place with the cold, brutal precision of a lock turning. 7 months ago I was still here, in this room, asleep. My gaze dropped from her eyes to her stomach, to the life growing beneath her hand, then back to her face. The unasked question was a physical presence in the room, a third person standing between us. It was a question of biology, of morality, of a line so fundamentally crossed that it redefined the universe. Who? How? But as I looked into her eyes, I saw that she understood the question I couldn't voice. A single tear escaped, tracing a slow, deliberate path down her cheek. It wasn't a tear of sadness or regret. It was a tear of confession, of truth. She didn't need to say a word. The answer was there, in the space between us, in the memory of her gentle hands caring for my inert body, in the intimacy of that care which transcended the clinical, in the impossible, terrifying, miraculous truth that in this sterile room, where one life had been patiently, painstakingly rebuilt, another had been created. A life that was a part of her, and impossibly a part of me. The world, which had returned in fragments, now shattered again, but in an entirely new way. The beeping of the heart monitor seemed to fade into a distant hum. The billionaire was gone. The patient was gone. All that remained was a man, a woman, and the silent, overwhelming truth of the future she carried. She began, her voice trembling, searching for a word in a lexicon that had no words for this. I finally found my voice, not the voice of Alexander Thorne, the Titan, but my voice raw and stripped bare. Mine. The word was a plea, a prayer, a statement of awe. She simply nodded, her hand still resting on the curve of our child, and in that silent, earth-shattering affirmation my old life, the one I had been fighting so hard to reclaim, dissolved into irrelevance. A new one had begun, not with a roar of ambition, but with the quiet, steady beat of two hearts where before there had only been one.